Let's see. Dozen of them, one of me.
What's that? Someone there?
Just another day being Spider-Man.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, we're back.
We're back, and we have a special guest.
Who's that?
Who is that?
Who is that?
Who
With
are
us.
you?
Who's
His
that
voice
guy
sounds
in
familiar.
the vid? What's up, everybody?
We have Sean Chiplock with us. He is our voice actor for our version of Spider-Man. Yes, you guys all recognize him.
Hello,
Right.
chat. I'm watching you. I got the tech.
It is Spidey. He is looking at chat. How are you, Sean?
I'm doing pretty okay. I'm sure everyone is, finally winding back down or winding back up for the work week after Thanksgiving weekend. Ours was relatively uneventful, except for the grease fire that created more smog in our kitchen than Los Angeles on an average day. So,
Wow.
but you know what? It made the bacon wrapped dates have that perfect smoky quality to them, just like Grandma used to make. It was fantastic.
So a nostalgic Thanksgiving then.
Yes.
Nice. Well, I'm sure everyone is super excited to hear from you. We have a few questions for you
Okay.
in this segment of the War Table, if you're ready.
Okay, sure. Bring them on.
Phil, do you wanna start us off?
Sure. All right, Sean. So super hard question to get you started. Spidey's super iconic. Like, what's your take on Spidey? Like, what's your personal touch that you're bringing to him?
Oh man. So I've always really enjoyed because I've experienced many iterations of Spider-Man. I've seen, the MCU version of him. I used to read the comics when I was younger, especially when I was waiting for my dental appointments. So I've seen both the more serious and the more comedic side. And I think I kind of took on a lot of what my dad talked to me about what he enjoyed Spider-Man, which is that, yes, Spider-Man does tend to have, or he does have superpowers as opposed to someone like Batman who makes do with gadgets rather than just superpowers. But it's the idea that Spider-Man is still kind of a kid at the end of the day. And I don't mean like a minor, although in some iterations he is rather young, but just the idea that he's always at odds with the life that he has to have as a superhero with the life that he wants to have as probably one of the youngest members of any superhero team that he ends up being a part of. And I that's kind of what affected the voice that I took for this role, in that when I get really excited, my natural pitch tends to be higher up here, versus when I'm like really relaxed and laid back, it tends to be much deeper. So you don't hear any, if a lot of this in the Spider-Man that I present. So I thought that it was a nice way of showcasing that, he's excited to some degree about the access that his powers give him and the fact that he can help others. But there's a lot of sadness buried behind that. There's a lot of, this isn't just something that I get to have fun with and get to protect people with. Now I am responsible for these people's well-being, because if I don't do my job, a lot of pain could happen. And that's really rough to think about on a daily basis, especially when you're still trying to figure out who you are as an individual. So I feel like a lot of my performance for Spider-Man actually played a lot on my approach to the role itself, which was confidence of I am capable of doing this, with that nervousness of I really hope I don't screw it up though, because it would be really bad if I did. So
Well, you're definitely not screwing it up, and it's awesome. Just talking to you, it's like I'm talking to Spider-Man, which is awesome. So
thank you.
I know, same. I think this is actually both of our first time meeting you, so this is pretty awesome.
Thank you.
We're meeting our Spider-Man.
Yay!
I saw some people in chat saying you have the perfect voice for him, so
Oh,
and
thank
I
you.
agree.
As you
I
can
agree.
tell, I've got the disguise on right now. I can't take these off. I gotta protect myself and the people that I love.
Exactly. That's very Spider-Man. So during the whole process, did you know you would be voicing Spider-Man? Like, did you do any auditions? And what was your reaction when you found out it was Spider-Man?
I did do the audition process, which honestly is a little anticlimactic if you ask for a breakdown of it, because, whether it's an audition for Spider-Man or an audition for like an indie studio or a AAA game studio, it tends to be the same process. Either we get the auditions at home and we record them, or if they want us to come in studio and record on their equipment, we'll do that. But I will admit, like there were at least 2 instances. No, because I finished my audition and I walked out, and I'm not going to name names because I want it to stay private, but there was a colleague of mine sitting at the table outside waiting for their turn. And I was like, oh, hey, how you doing, bud? Like, how's you been? How's the family? And as I walked away, I went, man, he's going to be great as Spider-Man. You know, like I could feel the vibes from him where I was like, oh, he would make a fantastic one. I can already tell it would be incredible. So imagine my surprise when they reached out and said, hey, we'd like you to be our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And I'm like, what? Like, are you sure? And it was something that kind of made sense the further I went along, because I realized, hey, you know what? That nervousness is something that they can play off of. It depends. At the end of the day, it's a sense of teamwork. It's what is the client looking for? What kind of performance are they looking for the game? And it may have just so happened that the approach that I took, which was, you know, kind of that more nervous, more unsure, but willing to learn actor, also worked for unsure but willing to learn Spider-Man. And I really appreciated the opportunity as well. And I wonder if this played into it, because this role was definitely something that I knew would be a challenge for me. Like being more nuanced. Typically in a lot of Western style games, you're not going to be as exaggerated as you might be in stuff like JRPGs. And so I knew going into this that this was going to be a challenge for me to understand when I could put on those moments of being a hero and when I needed to just relax and let myself be vulnerable and take my time with the lines that I was saying. And I think having to think about what I was saying and how I was saying it, again, you're going to hear this a lot, worked out really well with Peter Parker Spider-Man, trying to figure out who he can trust, how much he can say, to what people, you know, sorting through his emotions in the middle of trying to prevent entire countries from being wiped off the map. It was a very unique experience, and one that I'm very grateful for.
Aw.
That's awesome.
That's really heartwarming.
So, hey, you were talking about, like, you know, reading the comics at your dentist appointments and stuff. Like, how far does your comic knowledge go? Like, how familiar were you with Spider-Man before all this?
That one, the comic knowledge doesn't go back as far. I remember it was a lot of the, I want to say like earlier era, like Mysterio, when the villains were a little bit more campy, you know? In fact, my biggest memory of Spider-Man was actually from a themed Where's Waldo book that I poured over and over again, trying to find, because it was one of those books that had like, well, I think they all might have had this, but it had like the main villain that you were trying to find, but then it had a bunch of like their little insignias or calling cards or like special like Spider-Man themed items that you had to find. And like, I'm the person that would have like the book up to their face like this, like, where are you? I've been looking at you for 15 minutes. You know, I was thinking it, you know, maybe someone like was a troll and like photoshopped it before it went out to print and actually took out the item, so it's not actually there.
Just to mess with you.
like the person who puts 2 of the same puzzle piece into an 1,800 piece puzzle, and the last one that you actually need wasn't ever there to begin with.
They know what they're doing.
Coffeehead says, "I remember that. Where's Waldo?" Good. We might be the only 2 people who do.
I think I'd be super frustrated. Like all the Where's Waldo things, I was always super frustrated, but they were super fun also.
Right.
I think it would take me.
We've all played Where's Waldo at some point.
Exactly.
Right, like in some waiting room somewhere, like there's nothing better to do. You just
That's
Where's Waldo?
probably why my eyes are as bad as they are, is because I had my nose like pressed against the spine of the book,
Constantly
going,
looking.
"Where are you, Waldo?"
Speaking of like your eyes pressing against things and looking at books and everything, like what was your preparations like for doing this voice, for doing Spider-Man? Did you have like any sort of routine, or did you just like, I'm just gonna do it?
No, that makes sense. So obviously the nervousness was there, and thankfully I had a past experience with other roles that taught me, hey, if you're ever unsure of what you're supposed to be doing, don't be afraid to just relinquish control over to your director, whose job it is to guide you where they need you to go. And then once you're feeling more confident, you can take the reins, or in this case, the web strings, and you know, take it back and run with it. I think a big part was Oh, man. Warm-ups are important, of course. Anyone that wants to get into this career, you want to make sure you do your vocal warm-ups. If you're going to be shouting, if you're going to be screaming, you got to have the pipes relax. It's the muscle like any other part of your body. Outside of that, for me, when it comes to playing roles that have more heavy emotional beats, I try to pull from real life experiences. And this might hit Chad a little hard. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a trigger warning. If you're uncomfortable with like topics of like death and loss, then you might want to step out for like 2 minutes. So one thing that really connected me to Spider-Man's struggle is that I lost my mom when I was a freshman in high school. And so all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I had this massive amount of responsibility dumped onto me. You know, I was helping out my dad. I was caring for her near end of life. I was studying for like IB/AP college prep classes while also dealing with a single father family. And having to be like the other big man of the house. And that was really, really stressful. But it was a responsibility that I had to take on. And so that was something that I was able to take with me into the booth of like, okay, well, what did that feel like? What kind of weight did that put on your shoulders? You know, knowing that you couldn't just say, I don't want to do this, and that you had to rise up to the occasion while you were genuinely, as I imagine most sophomores in high school are, still trying to figure out what the heck you want to do with your life, and still trying to make friends and still trying to socialize. And I feel like that actually gave me a legit foundation because it gave me something to pull back on whenever I wasn't sure how Spider-Man might react and go, well, how would I feel? Or how would he feel in this moment? You know, where are his priorities lying? What's his emotional state? Is he going to be more internal? Is he going to be complaining externally about this is too much, this isn't fair? And I think having that as a baseline that I could fall back on I never actually felt lost. If I felt like I wasn't grasping the situation, I would go back to that baseline, to that emotional state, and then let my director tweak it as necessary to get where we needed to be.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah, I mean, crazy. It's amazing that you managed to leverage all that into something positive, right? That's a really amazing thing to do.
Nothing like says acting, like taking emotional trauma and turning it into a performance you get paid for. Let's go.
It's a good way to look at it. Okay, so Sean, playing Spider-Man, what do you think was your favorite part and then the most challenging part?
So the most challenging part definitely has to be, this seems like such a simple thing, but it's understanding when to take your breaths. No, because when you're dealing with a longer monologue, you know, if you just speed through it, if you just read the text, without stopping at all to breathe, it's going to sound rehearsed. It's going to sound like you're reading off of a script. But if you take every moment to say every word with a lot of emphasis, I'm sure chat was already like starting, they felt their eyelids starting to droop. They're like, I don't want to listen to that. Like, imagine if there's like a 5-minute Avengers scene and like 4.5 minutes of it is Spider-Man just talking at that pace. You'd all zone out instantly.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting, and it's so challenging figuring out how to embody that character and play pretend with the scenario that you're not actually a part of without either droning it on or going through it so quickly that people don't believe you at all. So that was definitely the parts where I would rely on my director saying, oh, you know, I really liked that approach, but could you speed it up a little? Could you slow down a little? You have more time with this. Definitely the parts where I think I had the most fun were any time when I got to tap in. Again, this is where a lot of my foundation of Spidey knowledge came from, or any of the times that I got to bring in some of that comedic Spider-Man. There's a little bit of sadness behind it because I've said elsewhere that Spider-Man is the kind of character that uses comedy to hide his fear.
Yeah.
And there are lots of instances where I use, you know, a chuckle or a nervous laugh or a small joke to try and mask his nervousness. But there's also a lot of moments where the kid in him gets to come out. There's one particular instance, I'm not going to spoil too much, but I know that there's elevator banter in these games. And I know I've mentioned it before, so this should be safe. But he ends up talking with one of the other Avengers, and he mentions, like, what's your favorite style of music or something like that. And Peter Parker is a really big fan of jazz. Now, the line didn't actually call for this, But I got so flustered at this idea because I am a huge fan of jazz. Jazz is like one of the most relaxing genres to me. I got so flustered at the idea that this person doesn't appreciate jazz. Look at me, I'm already doing the thing. Anyway, I got so flustered that he didn't appreciate jazz that instead of just saying, how could you not like jazz? I'm like, how could you not like, and I start like breaking out into doing like an instrumental of a jazz song, like making all of the instrument noises with my mouth. And it's one character interaction. Like you're gonna see it once and be like, okay, well now I've seen it. It's gonna be a repeat if it ever shows up again. But that's just one of those moments where I'm like, that's a Spidey thing, you know? When he's just like, how can you not enjoy like when it comes in and it's all like, and I feel like that's one of those moments that people are really gonna cherish. So I hope that people will check out the banters. I hope especially that people will check out if you get any of those unique poses. Because I believe I had to, in many cases, I had to ad-lib certain things for what he said when he did the poses. And I'm really proud of that. And this is either going to win me a lot of cred or lose me a lot of cred with chat. This one is specifically for chat. For those of you who watched the trailer, that corny line at the end where he goes, Avengers assemble, bad guys scatter. That was my suggestion.
Really?
It was. No, I said, because everyone likes the quote, Avengers assemble.
Yeah.
Everyone enjoys like that iconic quote. But I noticed at the end of the video that you got one bad guy left. So I was like, that's a funny contrast between having the whole group versus a single guy. So I was like, hey, let me try this. I was like, Avengers assemble, bad guy scatter. You know, like I thought it was like the cheesy superhero line that I was allowed because he obviously knows he has all the control in the situation. And I know just by saying that, like half the chat is going to be like, oh, that was so cheesy. You know, that's so him. I love it. The other half of the chat is going to be like, this is horrible. You ruined the character. How could you? Oh, no, well.
That is amazing. I'm going to tell you, like, so I didn't know that. And so I write, like, a lot of the social copy for our posts and our trailers. And that was, like, I like to use quotes from our trailers. That was the line, like, Avengers Assemble, you know, bad guys scatter. That was a line I picked out of the entire trailer to represent us, like, debuting that trailer. So it's some amazing lore for me right now, too.
Right?
I had no idea that...
And, you don't have to worry. Chat is definitely behind you.
Stop fighting, chat. This is the war table. No fighting. Can't fight in here.
No fighting, everyone. I also can't wait to hear the instrument thing because I haven't heard a lot of the elevator banter, and I know our narrative team, especially like Nicole, Hannah, Jess, they love the elevator banter, and Spider-Man ones are like apparently like.
This is my personal request to you, Chad. If you are able to somehow get a good clip of the elevator banter with that jazz scene, please send it to me. I might even give you a little gift. We'll see. I don't know. First person who manages to send a high quality of it to me, I might have a surprise for you. But I would appreciate it so much.
Where can they send something to you? What's your Twitter handle to remind everyone?
My Twitter is @SonicMega, SonicMega. You can send hate mail, praise, whatever you want over there. My DMs are open. Just be responsible about it. I also have a Twitch, which is the same, twitch.tv/@SonicMega. In which I stream 5 days a week whenever I can manage. I'm a huge fan of dungeon crawlers. We've been doing Shadowverse Champions Battle. If you guys want to join in tonight, I'm going to be doing Jackbox 8. I haven't touched it in weeks, and I'm finally going to have a chance. So I hope to see you guys there. But yeah, Twitter's the big place. That's where all the announcements happen. Twitch is the other big one. I do a lot of giveaways there when it comes to games and merch and stuff like that. So one of those two is the best.
Nice. Well, we don't want to take up too much of your time, but is there anything else you want to say to our players, to our chat, to Twitch chat right now before you head off?
Thank you guys for supporting, the franchise. I love your passion. I welcome your feedback because I know that no performance can be perfect. And I know that Spider-Man is a very iconic role for a lot of you, and just the superhero universe can be very iconic. And I'm very blessed and humbled to have the chance to embody this role of a character that as I found out throughout the project, I connected with a lot more than I initially figured. But either way, I hope that you guys have fun. That's what's important at the end of the day, is that you feel like you got your money's worth. And if you find out that you enjoy the stuff that I do and the other projects that I'm in, I hope to hear from you more. I've got a Discord community. I've got my DMs open if you want to talk shop. But thank you for letting me into your world, and I hope that you enjoy my presence in it.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean. It was great meeting you.
Yeah. Thank you. So good questions. Good questions.
Good questions. All right.
Thanks, Sean.
Take care.
Thanks, Sean.